is the destroying angel? The destroying angel is also commonly referred to as the angel of death. God used angelic beings, heavenly messengers of some kind, on numerous occasions to bring judgment to sinners on earth. This being referred to as a destroying angel in various Bible translations. There is no clear biblical evidence that any one angel was designated as a destroying angel or angel of death. The most we can say is that the Bible's references to a destroying angel refer to a heavenly being or beings who came to destroy those who were under God's judgment. In the book of Exodus, the most famous visitation of a destroying angel occurred on the first Passover. The book of Exodus tells the story of the 10 plagues of Egypt. According to the story of Exodus, the Hebrews living in Egypt were subjected to the cruel rule of the Pharaoh. Their leader, Moses, petitioned Pharaoh to allow them to return to Canaan, but Pharaoh refused. In response, the Hebrew God visited the Egyptians with 10 plagues in a divine display of power and displeasure intended to persuade Pharaoh to let my people go, in the words of the spiritual. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in Egypt, "This month is to be for you the first month of your year. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household. If any household is too small for a whole lamb, they must share one with their nearest neighbor, having taken into account the number of people there are. You are to determine the amount of lamb needed in accordance with what each person will eat. The animals you choose must be year-old males without defect, and you may take them from the sheep or the goats. Take care of them until the 14th day of the month, when all the members of the community of Israel must slaughter them at twilight. Then they are to take some of the blood and put it on the sides and tops of the door frames of the houses where they eat the lambs. That same night they are to eat the meat roasted over the fire along with bitter herbs and bread made without yeast. Do not eat the meat raw or boiled in water, but roasted over a fire, with the head, legs, and internal organs. Do not leave any of it till morning. If some is left till morning, you must burn it. This is how you are to eat it, with your cloak tucked into your belt, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. Eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. On that same night I will pass through Egypt and strike down every firstborn of both people and animals, and I will bring judgment on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. The blood will be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you. No destructive plague will touch you when I strike Egypt. This is a day you are to commemorate. For the generations to come, you shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord, a lasting ordinance. For 7 days you are to eat bread made without yeast. On the first day, remove the yeast from your houses, for whoever eats anything with yeast in it from the first day through the 7th must be cut off from Israel. On the first day, hold a sacred assembly, and another one on the 7th day. Do no work at all on these days, except to prepare food for everyone to eat. That is all you may do. Celebrate the festival of unleavened bread, because it was on this very day that I brought your divisions out of Egypt. Celebrate this day as a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. In the first month you are to eat bread made without yeast from the evening of the 14th day until the evening of the 21st day. For 7 days no yeast is to be found in your houses, and anyone, whether foreigner or native-born, who eats anything with yeast in it must be cut off from the community of Israel. Eat nothing made with yeast. Wherever you live, you must eat unleavened bread. Then Moses summoned all the elders of Israel and said to them, Go at once and select the animals for your families and slaughter the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop, dip it into the blood in the basin, and put some of the blood on the top and on both sides of the door frame. None of you shall go out of the door of your house until morning. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and sides of the door frame and will pass over that doorway, and he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses and strike you down. Obey these instructions as a lasting ordinance for you and your descendants. When you enter the land that the Lord will give you as he promised, observe this ceremony. And when your children ask you, What does this ceremony mean to you? Then tell them, It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt and spared our homes when he struck down the Egyptians." Then the people bowed down and worshipped. The Israelites did just what the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron. At midnight the Lord struck down all the firstborn in Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on the throne to the firstborn of the prisoner who was in the dungeon, and the firstborn of all the livestock as well. Pharaoh and all his officials and all the Egyptians got up during the night, and there was loud wailing in Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 30. When the Lord goes through the land to strike down the Egyptians, he will see the blood on the top and sides of the doorframe, and will pass over that doorway, and he will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses and strike you down. Exodus chapter 12, verse 23. Some other translations have angel of death, GNT, or death angel, NLT, instead of destroyer. This being is called the destroyer of the firstborn, in Hebrews chapter 11, verses 27 and 28. By faith he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who is invisible. By faith he kept the Passover and the application of blood, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. Amazingly, the original Hebrew text of Exodus 12:23 makes no mention of an angel. It simply states that the destroyer, the spoiler, or the one who causes damage, would slay Egypt's firstborn. The Lord himself could have been the destroyer, but it is also possible that God sent an angel to do the deed. Psalm 78 describes the plagues in Egypt and summarizes them as God unleashing a band of destroying angels, verse 49. The Hebrew word for angel is used here, but it does not refer to a specific angel. God also sent a destroying angel, a heavenly messenger who brought destruction, to judge the Israelites as a result of David's sin in numbering the people. So the Lord sent a plague on Israel from that morning until the end of the time designated, and 70,000 of the people from Dan to Beersheba died. When the angel stretched out his hand to destroy Jerusalem, the Lord relented concerning the disaster and said to the angel who was afflicting the people, "Enough! Withdraw your hand." The angel of the Lord was then at the threshing floor of Araunah, the Jebusite. When David saw the angel who was striking down the people, he said to the Lord, "I have sinned." 2 Samuel chapter 24, verses 15 through 17. The Assyrians who attacked Jerusalem during King Hezekiah's reign also met what could be called an angel of death or a destroying angel. 2 Kings chapter 19, verses 32 through 35. Therefore this is what the Lord says concerning the king of Assyria. He will not enter this city or shoot an arrow here. He will not come before it with shield or build a siege ramp against it. By the way that he came he will return. He will not enter this city, declares the Lord. I will defend this city and save it, for my sake and for the sake of David my servant. That night the angel of the Lord went out and put to death 185,000 in the Assyrian camp. When the people got up the next morning, there were all the dead bodies. Another angel who brought death and destruction is mentioned in King Herod's judgment. Acts chapter 12, verse 23. Immediately, because Herod did not give praise to God, an angel of the Lord struck him down, and he was eaten by worms and died. An angel with lethal intent, known as the angel of the Lord, wielding a sword, warns Balaam. Numbers chapter 32, verses 31 through 33. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with his sword drawn. So he bowed low and fell face down. The angel of the Lord asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? I have come here to oppose you because your path is a reckless one before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If it had not turned away, I would certainly have killed you by now, but I would have spared it." In addition, Jesus mentions that angels will be involved in the end of the world judgment of the wicked. Matthew chapter 13, verses 49 and 50. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous 50 and throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. In none of these instances are the angels referred to as the angel of destruction or the angel of death. We might refer to an angel who metes out God's judgment as an angel of destruction, but it is not an explicitly biblical term. However, the kingdom of heaven fights of evil.
Mari ikut Yesus. Mari ke jalan yang benar. Tuhan berkati.